Thanks for joining the Life's Better podcast, where we say at least twice an episode that life is so much better with God, community, and purpose. Jonathan Gleason here, Josh Dolan as always.
Hey.
Today we're going to actually finish up really a three-part series where we've examined Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So we've looked at 5, we're going to look at the last 2, and so because there's so many, and it's been over like 3 months if you guys watch every single month, we need a review. And so we're going to do a little quiz. I've got a few scenarios, you've got a few scenarios, you guys can play along. As these scenarios are being explained, we're going to be doing our best to figure out which out of the 7 habits can be best utilized in that scenario.
Okay.
So I'm going to go first.
All right.
The first one has to do with one of my kids.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
They all like playing ball with me, but there's one kid who really enjoys playing ball, and he does pretty good catching the baseball if I throw it directly into his mitt. But if that happens to be a little bit, over his head or in front of him,
It's Owen, isn't it?
Yeah. He's just so not athletic. He has to be thrown directly into the mitt.
He can catch lacrosse with the,
but not the baseball.
But not the baseball.
And typically what happens is if it doesn't go directly in his mitt, somehow it's my fault. And it's like, Dad, you didn't throw it right. It's like, okay, sure. It's my fault. It was just a foot above you. But yeah, what out of the 7 habits could he utilize in order to more effectively increase his chances, I guess, of catching that ball?
I don't know about increasing the chances of catching.
There's definitely one of the 7 habits that if he was consistently living this out, it would increase his chances of catching the ball.
Man. Be proactive?
If he decided to be proactive and chase
worry about
down
himself, not what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, oh yeah, well it's clearly Dad's fault. I mean, I can't move my legs and go back and go forward. If he was just proactive and worried less about what I was doing and more about his opportunity to catch the ball.
You threw me a curveball there because I was expecting it to be like on you. And I was like, maybe think win-win. Like how in the world can he like fix it? But Owen really needs to work on his proactive skills. We'll have to have a talk about that in youth. I'm just kidding. All right, so my first one.
Yep.
Let's say that you get to work and it's Monday morning.
Yep.
And you look at your list of to-dos and it's just a mile long. How can you keep from getting stressed? What is going to be the best way to tackle that?
Put first things first.
Put first things first. That is correct.
Woo!
Good job.
All right. We're each 1 for 1.
Yeah. What would be your first things first in that scenario?
Monday is jam on that sermon.
Jam on that sermon.
For Sunday. Yep,
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome. Cool.
All right, next one for you. Okay, so put yourself in this scenario.
Okay.
Corporate has just given your office branch a sizable check because you have exceeded sales.
Oh, man.
But Pam in the office, she wants to use that the big check for new office chairs. But Jim in the office wants to use that check for a copier.
Yeah.
There's problems in the office because those are the two competing ideas of how to use that check. What out of 7 habits, what habit would help in this scenario?
So here's a question. If I do nothing, do I get to pocket that money? I'm just kidding.
You do not. You are not the regional manager.
I would say we need to think win-win.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Think win-win. Maybe there's even a third option, and only because they're thinking win-lose, it's my way or the highway. They're not going to.
How can we save money on both of these and get a good copier and new office chairs?
Josh is thinking win-win.
Yeah.
Love it. That's good.
All right. So my second scenario is someone comes. It's another office scenario. I just kind of pictured Jonathan and figured out scenarios around him. Someone comes into your office complaining about their husband.
Oh, I hate them.
You hate their husband or hate
Totally.
hate the scenario?
Both of them.
Oh, okay,
they sound awful.
They're the worst. Just send them out of your office. How in the world can you help them, I guess, in their situation?
Well, knowing the 7 habits, I think I would employ the seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Absolutely. That is habit number 5. Good job.
Ding, ding. Hey, we're doing really well. Okay, here we go. A family not your family, but let's say a family spends most of their weekend resting from the long school week, work week, and they just kind of veg out, watch TV, and by the end of the weekend, they're definitely well rested, but there is a sense of, yeah, should we be doing more? Is there more to life? Is there more to our family? Is there more to our weekend than what we're currently living out? Out of the 7 habits, is there a habit that they could use in order to get the most out of their weekend?
Probably a bunch of them. But in all honesty, I would say probably number 2, begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind.
Having that like goal for the weekend, or even your overarching mission statement as a family. How can you achieve that over the weekend and still maybe even focus on number 7 as well? We'll get to that.
Yes. We are quizzing each other for all 7. So this is a review of the 5 that we've done, and then we're also going to introduce you to the last 2.
All right.
But
So this is number 3? 3?
Yes.
3 for me.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to lead a ministry you have never led ever before for the next year.
Yeesh.
How can you employ one of the habits to get you to where you need to go?
Gosh, okay.
I think maybe a few of them would help, but what would you employ?
You know, I'm going to go with beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah, that was my idea behind it. I know
Okay.
that it kind of approached it a little different than yours.
Yeah.
But I think having like, what is your ultimate goal for
Yeah.
that ministry?
No, that makes
being
sense.
important.
Yeah. Okay, that was good. All right, number 4, getting to that halfway point here. One of your students, if you're watching, listening right now, and you don't realize it, Josh is a youth pastor. So I'm saying you're in youth, one of your students comes in, super like cranky, just in a funk. They're like, anytime you give them some instruction, they're just like giving you a hard time. At some point, you know, maybe they even just get like critical. It's just it's a bad day for you, for them. How could you help in that situation by using one of the 7 habits?
I think I gotta seek first to understand, then be understood.
Yep.
They probably came in with some overarching thing that has nothing to do with me. But our tendency as a people is to think it all is about me, and it probably isn't. So seek first to understand, then be understood. Is that good?
That's
awesome.
it. Wow, no mistakes yet. Pressure's on.
All right, number 4.
Okay.
You have a group of coworkers all struggling to do their own projects with little to no overlap between coworkers, and they're just kind of all doing their own thing. They're all struggling.
Okay.
What can you do?
Oh, okay. Using the 7 habits, what can I do? They're all struggling with something.
They're all struggling to do their own projects, and none of them have any overlap into each other's projects.
Oh.
I'm trying to lob it.
Yes. Okay, that was good. Okay, this is the 6th habit.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to be introducing today. And this is, we need to synergize.
Absolutely. Good
No,
job.
that was good. That was good, Josh. Not an easy one.
I worded it a little poorly to begin with.
No, you helped me out with that extra little. Yeah, synergize. Well, we'll talk about that one in a bit. Okay, number 5 for you, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a friend, and your friend has a board game idea that he really wants to market. He wants to create, sell.
All right, Max. Yeah.
Okay, so you got a friend like that.
Yep.
The problem with Max is that he just jumps from one project to the next. He leaves, one stressful situation and jumps
Max.
on the next stressful, and he just never doesn't have time to get to what he really wants to do.
Yep. Okay.
What can we do using the 7 habits?
So here's the problem. As we go deeper, I feel like I've used, I can't remember ones I've already said and which ones I haven't. I'm going to say we got to
I think you might be right. I don't know what you're about to say, but I think you might be
put
right.
first things
Put
first.
first things
Okay.
first.
I was
Max has the goal, so he
Yeah,
has
yeah.
the end game in mind. What Max needs is a strategy to get to that point. He needs a system to
on,
get to
Max.
that point. Yeah. Poor Max. I think it's your turn.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just waiting for the next question. All right, let's see here. My next one is this one's good.
Okay.
Let's say you aren't married yet.
Okay.
Dana hasn't come into the picture.
Oh, life is awful.
And you've already gone through like just a horrible situation, breakup. Like it was just very toxic for you.
Okay.
So you want to be married,
Okay.
but fear of rejection or losing that person holds you back. What can you do?
I think I need to be proactive and still go for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think proactive, like controlling what you can control, not worrying about what you can't, like that can be helpful in that situation.
And honestly, I'm not going to have any trouble finding a wife. So what am I stressed about, right?
And young Jonathan needs to work on pride maybe a little bit too.
Probably.
I don't know if that's a habit that maybe begin with the I don't know.
We could squeeze it in there somewhere. All right, number 6 here. You have a diverse group, again, youth pastor scenario. You've got some who like sports, some who hate sports. You've got some who are into drama, some who are into music. You've got young, you've got old, you've got mature, immature. You just got a diverse group. If you want to galvanize this diverse group of students behind a clear, focused intention mission, you're going to want to make sure that they are doing what out of the 7 habits? The goal is that this team will really what?
Oh, number 6, synergize?
Synergize. Got to have this group in that synergy. What is synergy? You're going to find out in just a second.
All right, I have 2 more. You have 1 more. Let's say that this is early on in marriage. You and Dana have finally tied the knot.
Good.
But you and Dana have difficulty in kind of meshing your life goals. So like maybe you got married without really talking about this, and so now you are, and you realize that you have some differing life goals that you both want to accomplish, you both want to see through. How can you fix this problem?
I feel like I've already used seek first to
You might have.
So I can't use that one.
You both have these goals, but they aren't necessarily the same goals. How can you accomplish what you need to accomplish? How can you guys have a healthy marriage?
Have I already used the begin with the end in mind?
You have.
Dang. Am I going to get my first loss here?
This might be my fault.
I'm just trying to think through the ones I've already used.
Yeah.
Okay. Think win-win?
That is the correct answer.
I thought failed there.
Yeah, in my mind, you gotta have that, not have that scarcity mindset where both things can be accomplished.
Yes.
Maybe they're very differing and like just complete opposites, and then you gotta really be creative in how you think win-win. But in most cases, she might have these career goals, and you might have these family goals. And if you have that scarcity mindset, you might think you can only accomplish one when you can probably accomplish both.
No, that makes sense. I like it. All right, last one. Maybe just from process of elimination, you might be able to get this one.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Okay, you've been at your workplace for over 5 years.
Okay.
Things are good, but there is
this is my scenario right now.
There is this sense of just stress and anxiety that pops up more often than you'd like.
Yeah, all the time. I'm just kidding.
And then at the same time, you get this dose of apathy that just kind of comes out of nowhere. So what could you do to curb apathy, curb the stress and anxiety in your life?
You gotta sharpen that saw.
You have to sharpen the saw.
Yeah, that's habit number 7.
And we're gonna get to that one today.
Yeah, and same thing for you. Process of elimination. Your job and family roles have you feeling exhausted and bitter. How can you rejuvenate?
Be proactive. Wait, no, that's not the right. Oh man, unbelievable. No, I think it's sharpen the saw. Sharpen the saw.
Good job.
Cool.
Well done,
dude. 7 out of 7.
We did good.
We did it. Okay, and we successfully did a high five. There was no miss there.
That was
either.
perfect. Yeah,
that was good. Okay, well, we're going to jump into these last 2 habits. The first one is to synergize, and this is kind of one of those buzzwords that. I mean, what does it mean? Does it mean like, I don't know, your favorite exercise routine, jazzercise? It sounds kind of similar, but totally different. Let me try to give it a little bit of context by explaining something that I've been seeing over the last 2 weeks. So don't know if you've noticed this, but quite often when I'm outside, I will see geese doing their migratory flights.
Yeah. Those are cool.
Yeah. In fact, this past Friday, I heard this noise, and I was like, what is that noise? And I had my whole family stop. I was like, wait, let's listen. And we're like, what is that noise? And as it got closer, it was like, oh, it's the geese like honking at each other. So typically when you see geese, you don't see a lone goose flying typically. You see them in groups, and they're usually flying in what type of formation?
They've got that V formation.
The V formation. Now, you probably learned this in school, but when geese are flying in that V formation together, they're actually able to travel 71% further than if they were just traveling alone, which is pretty considerable.
Yeah.
There's a few reasons for this. One, it has that aerodynamics. They're actually able to draft off of each other.
Yeah.
That lead goose, he's the one that's taken most of the brunt, but as soon as he's tired, he'll just drop out of formation. Someone else steps into his place. If one is actually tired, completely done, or injured, he'll drop completely out of formation, and the entire group actually goes with him to make sure he's doing okay. On top of that, when you hear that honking and you're like, what is that noise? What is that? Most biologists believe they're actually encouraging one another, that it's a way to like continue motivating the geese herd. I don't even know what they're called. Flock, I guess, is what they are. So really fascinating things, which all point to this idea of synergy, that these geese have been able to synergize themselves. And what is this word synergy? What does it mean? Give us a working definition.
So the idea is that, you and I, we can accomplish things on our own that are good.
Yeah.
But in order to really be effective and accomplish something like great, you need to be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
So you need to be in a group rather than just lone wolfing it.
Yeah, and another example I was thinking through, it really just even has to do with like the cell phone. So we're going to get to some more specific examples of groups, teams in a second. But when I look at the cell phone, there's all kinds of really cool technology. So if I were to part this thing out, just like the glass alone, Gorilla Glass, wonderful piece of technology. By itself, the camera, 20 years ago, like the world's greatest spy camera. Even the back cover that says "Rad to the power of sick." It's ironic and making a chuckle from Josh here. All these parts individually, they're good. They're good on their own. But when you start to piece them together, you end up creating something that, a product that people are willing to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars for. Companies make millions and millions off of it.
Yeah.
What's just happened here? This has become synergized into something far bigger than its individual parts. So in your life, maybe a team, maybe some sort of even work setting, where have you experienced synergy?
So I feel like it's just been all around me my whole life, but one silly one that I feel like people around here will completely understand is the 2012 UK basketball team that won the whole thing. Like, Anthony Davis was amazing and incredible, probably the best player on that team, but he could have easily lost and not gotten as far as he did without the other four players being as good as they were and accomplishing their goals on that team. But ones that I've seen, like some of the most successful parts of ministry that I've ever had were when synergy was at its best, like Camp Calvary experiences, where everybody has their goal and we don't step on each other's toes. In fact, we actually lift each other up and we're able to balance out. And I don't know, I always leave Camp Calvary feeling like I've done a lot, but never feeling exhausted because the people around me have helped keep that balance. And if I did that all on my own, I would absolutely be exhausted by day 3. Like, it would just be like, I feel like an important part of synergy that I've seen like the benefits of is that it not only makes things better, but it also, I guess, causes more endurance in yourself. Kind of like the geese thing. Like, I'm able to do a lot more when I'm in a group that's synergizing well.
Yeah.
And go a lot further and not be burnt out or stressed. Then there have been moments as well where, like, and I wanted to touch on this and see your thoughts on this. But there have been moments where I've been in groups before where it's not been a good example of synergy, and that keeps me from wanting to, be in groups in the future.
Yeah.
And so it's just like one of those things where this is something that you have to believe this because you might have those scenarios, but in order to really accomplish something great, you're gonna need to be trusting of groups in the future, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, this is something that I think you see in the workplace. You might even see it in church in a life group. as simple as someone has one interpretation of Scripture, another person has another interpretation, and it's just this, awful, like, toxic, oh, you're wrong, I'm right. And it's like, I don't want to come back to that. Like, that's awful.
Yeah.
But when people are able to see each other's differences and maybe even see different perspectives that they never saw before, you end up getting a richer perspective of Scripture or whatever it might be. I think Paul even talks about this in 1 Corinthians when he's describing the church.
Yeah.
He says, hey, you've got your gifts, I've got my gifts, and apart from one another, you may be able to do something, but it's not going to be something that lasts. It's when you are using your gifts in conjunction with all the other parts of the church that you actually become the body of Christ.
Yeah.
Continuing his ministry, which has transformed the entire world, continuing it some 2,000 years later.
He even touches on in there, like, we have to play our part. We can't act or try to be something that we're not, which I think touches on that the areas that you can work on if you're in a group and you're not seeing synergy play out well. Like, are you playing your part well? Is everybody else actually, respecting one another and doing their own thing, or just trying to, lone wolf it in a group? Because that can happen too. But yeah, this is a good one.
The good question I think that I ask is, okay, so how can we consistently make sure that we're bringing synergy to a group? And this is a product of living out the other 5 habits on a regular basis. You continue to be proactive. You continue to be someone who thinks with the end in mind, putting first things first, seeking first to understand, then to be understood, having that win-win mindset. If that is a part of any group setting, you're going to naturally synergize. At the same time, though, I think it's also really helpful to look at differences as strengths, not weaknesses.
Absolutely.
I don't always do this. Like, when I'm in a group, if someone's got a different thought, a different perspective, oftentimes I just double down on my idea. It's like, what? No, this dude's thoughts they're just wrong, And I'll just push my agenda, push my thought, and as opposed to taking the time to say, hey, how can this maybe complement my ideas? How can we actually maybe even create something that's bigger and better than its original idea? I heard a story not that long ago of this restaurant in Italy, and it was having some issues because they had 2 head chefs with radically different ideas. One was kind of the old school, this is what Italian cooking technique looks like. These are Italian flavors. This is what Italian food is.
Yeah.
And then we've got, the new school individual who's all about breaking the rules, bringing in new techniques and new flavor combinations. And they just were very competitive, always at each other's throats, and it just wasn't working out. And they heard that a critic was going to come in and evaluate the restaurant. And they had about a week, and they realized, okay, this is make or break time. Like, we could either become the place to eat or we could fail miserably. And so the 2 decided, okay, let's synergize. They didn't use that word. I don't even know what that would be in Italian. But what they did is they started talking to each other about, okay, well, how can we make even better dishes together? Here's some flavors that you may not have thought of. Here are some techniques that maybe you haven't thought of. Let's work together. And they end up creating stuff that they never would have done on their own. And when the critic came in, blew them away. They became Michelin star. I don't even know how many they get, but it's like the place to eat, and everyone was really excited. This is what synergy looks like. So here's the challenge. The challenge is we all have people in our lives that are different, and they have different thoughts, and they have different perspectives. Identify who that is in your life, and really just this week, spend just a handful of minutes thinking through, okay, how could these differences actually end up being strengths? Whether in your home, whether in your workplace, whether in your neighborhood, understanding, okay, this is their thoughts, this is what they do. Is there anything that maybe can actually be a strength to how we're doing things? And how can I utilize that? No. Not easy, but definitely where you need to be aiming for. Yeah. Okay, the 7th and final habit of highly effective people is?
Sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the saw. So there's a story about a lumberjack competition, and it's a weekend event. These lumberjacks compete all weekend long, and it whittles down to 2 guys. One guy, he's been a lumberjack for years and years. He's super savvy and knows what he's doing. The other guy, young, strong, has all kinds of endurance. They're going to be going head-to-head in the final competition. The final competition is grueling. It's 16 hours of just sawing down as many trees as you possibly can. And so 16 hours, they jump into it. They're working in the same forest, but they can't see each other, but they can hear each other at work. And the young guy's thinking, I got this. I've got the strength, I've got the endurance, I can take this guy. Old guy, he's feeling pretty confident too. And the young guy starts to notice about an hour and a half into sawing down trees, he can hear that nothing's going on. Like there's silence from the other part of the forest. He's like, dude, is he taking a break already? Like we're only an hour and a half in. I haven't even broken a sweat. I've got this. And sure enough, every hour or two, he would hear silence for about 10 to 15 minutes. He's like, that guy needs a break. He's so old. He's not going to be able to make it. So 16 hours goes by. They begin to count up the trees. The lumberjacks face each other. The young guy is like super exhausted, tired. The older guy actually looks a lot fresher than he feels he should, or at least the younger guy thinks he should. And he's like, what's going on? Oh, it's the breaks. It's the breaks. You got more breaks than I did. I still got this competition. Numbers come in. Turns out the older guy has a considerable number of trees above the younger guy. Younger guy's incredulous. Like, how in the world did you do that? There's no way. Like, someone is lying. You took breaks like every hour and a half. How could you cut down more? I never stopped for 16 hours. And the older guy looked at him and was like, hey, when I took a break, I wasn't just like taking a nap. I took a break to sharpen my saw. The idea being, once that saw is sharper, it's able to cut down more efficiently and cut down more trees.
Yeah.
So, fun little parable. It might be one of those things that we could find all kinds of cool little hidden, helpful insights. But what does it mean to sharpen our saw?
So it's the idea that self-renewal and balance are a priority in your life.
Self-renewal and balance are a priority. Now, Stephen Covey talks about 4 areas where self-renewal needs to be a priority. We're going to talk about these 4. The first one I think is kind of obvious. Is with your physical body. You got to take care of your physical body. And Stephen Covey says, first of all, you need to exercise regularly. What does exercise need to look like? It really involves 3 things that I try to do on a regular basis. I know you do as well, but stretching, cardio, and strength training. Stretching's one that I used to scoff at when I was younger. It's like, stretching, dude, if you're not sweating, you're not exercising. The older I get, the more I realize particularly my leg muscles just don't want to work the way they used to. And stretching is essential for them to continue having the mobility that I'm used to. Cardio, your heart is the engine for your body. And you need to rev that engine up as often as you can so it can stay strong and continue to move your body the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And the strength training, I mean, we've all probably had times where we stopped and our muscles developed atrophy really quickly, and then we tried to lift up something that was light and easy, and you're like, I'm so sore. So, physically, you need to exercise. Eating right is a part of that too. I'm not a nutritionist, but we should probably avoid like sugary foods as best we can, right?
Yeah.
We should probably avoid really fatty foods. We should try to avoid, things that are
just eating out
processed.
is like if you do that all the time, you don't realize how unhealthy. You could make unhealthy foods at home and
still be
way healthier than
Yeah.
if you just ate out all the time. It's crazy. But no, I the stretching thing, Emily, this is a practical, and Emily listens to this, so sorry. But she's been getting back into volleyball, and just she wants to work on her overhand serve. So one of these things, she's been working with the girls at the high school, their team, and so she was like, I just really want to get back into it because I can't do that as well anymore. And so she spent like an hour outside our house just hitting the ball over, like from the distance, over our garage, hitting the brick and whatever, trying to do that. The next 4 days, her arm was so sore that she couldn't do like any normal workout she normally does. She had trouble functioning other things. And I was like, did you stretch at all before you did that for an hour? And
or
she was
after,
like, no,
right?
No, none.
Yeah.
And so like it was definitely one of those moments where it's like, you hurt yourself for the next 4 days, and you probably lost all that strength training you had built up. But yeah, no, be careful with that. It is very important to stretch.
and the only other thing that Stephen Covey talks about, and I think this is one that it's hard for me, is getting enough sleep and rest. It's one of those things that I would love to, but my brain wakes me up before I should. But we all know how important sleep is. So
Absolutely.
sharpen the saw when it comes to your physical body. What's number 2?
Number 2 is mentally, you need to be sharpening your saw. And an easy example to explain this is the fact that you're kind of doing this right now. You're listening to the podcast. Podcast will hopefully help you learn a little bit more, or maybe be reminded of things that you knew were important. And learning is sharpening your brain mentally.
Absolutely.
And I think the easiest way to think about this is that you've done this for a really long time in your life, up through high school. But a lot of us, unfortunately, and I've even fallen victim into this, as soon as we're not in a setting where we're being taught and that's like our goal, for the year, and we're getting to a workplace and all of that stuff, we think we're done. When in reality, you'll be missing a lot, and you'll actually feel exhausted mentally if you're not continuing to learn.
Yeah.
I know that something I desperately missed for the first 2 years of ministry was my classes that I was in college, and I was like, how in the world am I missing these? I was stressed out, trying to get good grades and all these things, but then the moment that I stopped getting brand new books to read that I had to read and being forced to read, and the moment that I didn't have lectures 3 times a day, I missed it. I realized, man, those were actually growing me. Those were making me feel better afterward. Kind of like a physical workout. In the middle of them, you are annoyed.
Couldn't wait to be done.
Yeah, but when you're done, you feel better about it. And so I realized that I was missing that. It was almost like I was surviving on junk food rather than the healthiness. And so I had to find ways like podcasts, reading new books, actually trying to force myself to read new books, and finding other people other than just Brandon at the time and Jonathan to listen to teach me, and I think that that's really, really important, not only spiritually but also with anything, with continuing to press on to learn new skills, learn new hobbies, learn new things like that. Those are important to press your mind and to expand.
Well, you mentioned it just now when it came to the spiritual. The third aspect of...
Sorry to ruin that.
No, you're good. The third aspect that we need to keep sharpening is our spiritual lives. And I know for us, we're Christians and we follow Christ's example. But really this just comes down to going back to your core values, going back to your core beliefs, because that's going to be what ends up informing all the other decisions that you make in life and ultimately will determine your impact in life. And so some of the habits that we have when it comes to sharpening our saw is daily prayer and Bible study. We engage in other spiritual disciplines when it comes to corporate as well as private worship, fasting, meditating, even doing journaling. These are all ways to sharpen your spiritual saw.
Then the last one is maybe a little bit easier than the other 3. It's social, but it's really important. The social and emotional aspect, or the dimension of sharpening your saw. You need to make sure that as you're doing all of these other things, you're finding time to be with others, and not only be with others, but be with people who are going to build you up, who are going to, do the iron sharpens iron thing, but in basic life. So are you having friendships? Are you not only doing that, but are you expressing your emotions healthily? So finding people that you can talk about everything going on, whether it's good or bad, or finding healthy, outlets for those emotions. I know that I don't know if this would quite fall into this, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but talking with some football players, they express, in high school, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of things to possibly make them angry or built up tension and stuff. And football gives them kind of a healthy outlet for that.
Yeah.
And so that not only is physically sharpening their saw, but it's also emotionally sharpening their saw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, teams, that is that social component.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So here's what we want you to do. Challenge. Just evaluate those 4 areas that Covey encourages you to sharpen your saw. Ask yourself, where am I dull? You know, is it the spiritual aspect? Is it the physical aspect? You know, where are you dull? And what is one thing, just one thing this week that you can do to sharpen your saw?
I think I just want to tag on to this because this is an area that I'm definitely still learning how to do this well. And there's times where we decide we want to sharpen our saw, and then we quickly fall out of that habit because of a multitude of different things. Maybe it's just you have a hard time with discipline and you're trying to build that up.
Stop being lazy.
Yeah.
That's what Josh is trying to tell you.
My main thing is, and this has helped me a lot, kind of build that discipline even up to harder and tougher things to say yes to in terms of sharpening physically, mentally, and all of those things, is to first start with things that you really enjoy. So find healthy things that will sharpen all four of these things that you look forward to doing.
So like, spiritually, it's going to be fasting for all of you.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
That's what you're immediately going to jump into.
My immediate thought with that one is I love to worship, and so finding moments where I can be by myself and playing music and like praying and all of that stuff, like that's something I enjoy doing, and so I can do that. I can accomplish this, but also walk away like excited to go back and do it again.
That's good.
For physically, it might be like an activity that is healthy that you enjoy, like disc golf for me was a great one, where I didn't realize it, but I'm walking/running, depending on how excited I am about where I threw the disc, 3 miles every single time I play 18 holes.
I'm just curious. So as you're on that disc golf field, do you ever like throw it and get so excited you're like, I gotta sprint to that next one? Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's funny.
There's times where like you'll throw it and you don't know where it landed, and you know it was a good throw.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so you chase it. You're like, where did it land? And then other times where you actually threw it into somewhere where where you might lose it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just went into a deep woods. I need to make sure I remember exactly where I threw it, and you're gonna chase it. No. There's plenty of times where you run.
I hope that I see you down at the park at some point in my life, just like chasing down frisbees.
We need to play disc golf together. You'll probably see it the first time we play together.
Josh is too good. I actually want to compete at games that maybe I have a chance at, but who knows? We'll see. All right, well, until next time, don't forget that life is so much better with God, community, and purpose.
See ya.